New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning, dear ones. Rev Briz with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And we're a couple of ministers. There you are. Now you're catching up. We're a couple of ministers talking shit. This happens every Friday morning here on the New Thought Media Network, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. So thank you so much for being with us. First up today, we can't go anywhere without recognizing that today is a very, very auspicious day. And no, I'm not talking about what happened yesterday. I'm talking about what happens today. Today is the Trans Day of Visibility. So we all know that trans rights are human rights. And today is the day when the trans aspects of our family, of our world, get a chance to stand up and say, we're here and we're proud and we're not going away. So hug a trans kid today. There's a good, I think that might be a good slogan for the day. Hug a trans kid today. So good morning, Z. How are you?
Oh, good morning. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. Sun is rising in California, maybe in California, but it's already up here in Colorado. And yeah, just looking forward to the weekend. And I heard something about somebody having an anniversary or something. I don't know who it was, though. I heard that, but I couldn't figure it out. I tried really hard to figure it out. You have any idea who that might have been?
I might have a little bit of an idea. Yes, folks, if you, my dear friends, pulling my leg here. Yesterday was, for my wife and I, was our 20th wedding anniversary. And we will say thank you for all the accolades and all the love. And I'll tell you, my Facebook just wouldn't stop ringing yesterday. Every time I turned around, there were 10 or 20 notifications to say thank you to. So thank you to anyone and everyone that's helping us celebrate. And yes, when we first started this thing called marriage, I looked at Laura and I said, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to do this every 10 years. And every 10 years we do a reaffirmation, and every 10 years we get together and have a party and stand up and commit to another 10 years at least. And so, yes, she has said yes 3 times now. And we're doing that tomorrow based on the scheduling and days and all the stuff that was going on in our lives. We're like, I'm not having a party on a Thursday night. We're not doing this let's do it on Saturday afternoon. So if you're in the Denver area and you'd like to join us, please let us know. If you'd like to watch online, it will be on our YouTube channel. That'll be on YouTube only, starting at 6 o'clock Mountain Time tomorrow with the wedding ceremony. So thank you for that, brother.
Yes, yes.
All right. So let's get to our top story. For some people, it's a day of dancing in the streets. Although most of this news broke late yesterday afternoon. New York District Attorney and a grand jury, the New York Supreme Court has indicted Donald J. Trump on a host, 30 different charges. Now, we don't know exactly what those charges are yet because Donald's not been arraigned. Here's the way it all works. They returned the indictment. His lawyers have been informed. He will be given an opportunity to surrender himself. And my thought was that might have happened overnight and they already processed him and released him. Who knows? Or it'll happen sometime. My bet is it'll happen in the middle of the night and they'll fly him into New York. They'll fingerprint him. They'll arraign him in front of a judge. And then there will either be bond, which I highly doubt. He will probably be released on his own recognizance. Although I did notice that one major news station, news outlet, had a camera watching the Trump jet yesterday. It wasn't like it was fired up. It wasn't like it was being prepared or anything. It was just sitting there on a runway or sitting there on the tarmac, wherever it is docked there. And but they were watching that plane. They were keeping a good eye on that plane. But I don't know. What do you think? See, is the Donald a flight risk? Is he gonna jet off to Russia and hang out with Putin and I just say fuck it all? Or did I say that on air? Or is what do you think is gonna happen here?
Well, I don't think he's going to run anywhere. He's declared himself a candidate for the next presidential election. Mm-hmm. He's already out campaigning. I think he will abide. I heard that he was surprised that it came down. Right now there's so much speculation because there are very few people who are really in the crowd, right? Who know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest travesty, the biggest crazy point that I've seen now is how everyone is taking these positions. A lot of Republicans are taking positions that speak to his guilt or non-guilt, and they're going to burn themselves if they don't know what they're talking about because the indictment hasn't been opened yet. There's talk about DeSantis not extradition not happening, so it's going to be interesting.
There we go. Ron DeSantis is going to have to harbor Donald Trump in Florida and keep him from being arraigned. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But it is. I think it is important. I agree with you. Right? It's far too easy, and there are news outlets already speculating what this is about and what exactly is in there. Now, we're pretty sure that it's tied in some ways to the hush money payments that were paid to Stormy Daniels. And, here's what I see is for a lot of people, they've known Donald Trump not as the president, but as a wannabe wise guy in New York that pushed a lot of people around, that drove a lot of people in Atlantic City to bankruptcy, mismanaging casinos. And they know him as truly, in my opinion, the fraud huckster and con artist that he is. But now we're going to see it for the first time. We're going to actually get to see it on trial. And for those that thought the Johnny Depp trial this past year was a big deal, or that the Gwyneth Paltrow trial that did end yesterday is such a big deal, just wait until we got to start watching that man sit behind a defense table and listen to the evidence that's going to be laid out. Because I'm pretty sure New York's not doing this as a stunt. I'm pretty sure they're not. It would look really bad to indict a former president and then lose the case. So I'm pretty sure they're pretty confident they got what they need to get a conviction here.
Well, and the other part of it is I heard someone today, I think it was Michael Cohen, that was the guy who paid the money.
Yep.
And they were saying, oh, these are frivolous charges, and he said, well, I look at it just like with Al Capone. Al Capone did a whole bunch of stuff, racketeering, they have him for some murders. He said, but they finally got him on tax evasion.
Right.
And, so he was making that comparison to Trump of all of the things that he's been charged with or allegations against him on. He says, this is like a tax evasion fraud. If that's what it takes to get some justice as the court sees for things, then boom, and there's still charges or still cases pending on the Georgia election case where he tried to get the guy to give him 11, and it was so specific, 11,781 votes, I think it was, or 80 votes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's premeditated because that's a specific amount. So it's going to be interesting to see how everybody trips over themselves trying to report this and who's accurate and who's keep the emotions out. So I'm looking forward to the circus.
It'll be interesting. I'm sure of that. So, plus you're going to have the whole piece around. Well, it's all fake anyway.
Yeah,
a lot of his hardcore base is this is all fake, and they're not actually going to pay attention to it, or they're not going to put credence into it until they end up seeing their hero behind bars in an orange jumpsuit. But I saw a clip yesterday of if you haven't seen them out there on YouTube, folks, there's some people that like to troll the Proud Boys and the heavy conservatives and the far right, and they go in pretending they're part of the demonstration, and shouting incredibly wonderful slogans that reveal how stupid some people are, and some guy that isn't part of that showed up in front of the courthouse yesterday, the day before, pretending to be the Q shaman, with his own Q shaman outfit and routine and all of this. But he was making it pretty clear how silly this all is. And he was already trolling on the fact that, okay, if they indict, what do we say it is? And he had this whole crowd of far right folks screaming, fake news, fake trial, fake news, fake trial, right? That we're going to now hear the fake trial chant, I believe, show up pretty heavily, and kind of funny if you ask me. It's like trials aren't fake, folks.
Yeah, and here's for me, here's the overarching thing about this is that the things that we used to trust, the media, good politicians, I'll say, or legislators, now it has devolved into a social media event, right? It's entertainment. It's not to try to keep the country in line with its principles and to allow people to grow and develop and be part of a system that creates a way of life. Right now, it's those who have money can avoid and evade and pay off and buy off, and the rest of us are struggling.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
And so now the slogan, the one percenters, you can really see that now, that the one percenters, that how they're buying up all the news outlets. So now they're beginning to sway. They're buying up all the television, or having sway on the television, and so now you begin to say, what can I trust? Right? And that's Trump's whole thing now. You can't trust anything, so it's all fake, and they've created that atmosphere.
Well, I think we're coming to the point where we also realize we can't trust the railroad industry in our country, but those aren't fake fires. You knew
no,
that one.
I knew he was going there. And here's the irony of that. If you go all the way back to Obama, they were talking about infrastructure and getting the infrastructure bill all the way back with Obama.
Yeah.
So now we're talking almost 20 years, 15 years for sure, that we've been talking about bridges and roads and railway. And originally part of that infrastructure bill was to say, hey, let's shore up these tracks and begin to get some high speed trains to help with transportation. Um, and everybody fought it for this, for that. And now we're having hazardous waste and lives put in peril because they've made something that's essential to the country a political ping pong ball. And now we're seeing the results.
Yep. Folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, there's been another train derailment, this time in Raymond, Michigan. Follows on the heels of the other train derailment that burned for close to a month. This is burning still. It happened yesterday, but it is still burning as of this hour. And we're shipping toxic chemicals on outdated and crumbling infrastructure. I saw a picture the other day. Somebody had taken, I think it was in Pennsylvania, a picture of a freight train track that was truthfully broken all the way through from top to bottom. And it, like, okay, this is just waiting, right? This is just crumbling in front of our face. And we're shipping huge amounts of toxic chemicals around the country. Now, that may be the safest way to move these things. And companies are continually seeking to cut back on their workforce and cut back on how many people have to be on a train for it to legally operate. So we heard a lot from our former president, Donald Trump, during his term in office about deregulation. And well, here it is. Here's what happens when we stop regulating companies for the simply to empower or in profit the 1%. That's what many of the deregulations were about. They weren't about making business easier for mom and pop organizations. They were about making business easier for these huge companies that repeatedly appear to put their profits in front of the lives of the people of this country.
Yeah. And you know, spiritually speaking, we continue to see the whole playing field of oneness played out over and over again. This shows how everything is connected. I mean, in addition to the tracks being bad, right? Now, because of the environment, you don't have enough workers. I mean, literally, I went to my pharmacy the other day and there was a sign that literally said, "We don't have enough staff, we're closed today." And I'm like, what? And it's the same thing with this infrastructure. Train maintenance guys, train drivers, they're not there anymore. And now the education of this is, I mean, when we look at how the education is backed up now because of COVID and all of the craziness going on with the shootings, and we are creating a crumbling house if we cannot begin to accept the number one spiritual principle of unity and oneness that's throughout the universe. It's all connected, and you can't go off the rails, so to speak, on these different issues, these different things that need to be done, and expect everything to be as usual.
Right. Exactly. I think
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say.
I don't know why people can't see it.
Right. I think it's because they're being told not to look. There is that don't look at the man behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at what's really going on. Hey, there's a lot of tomfoolery, and right, we're fighting over whether the statue of David is pornography or not. I mean, come on, people. Tell me that's not a red herring just to keep us busy while something else is being monkeyed around with. We keep getting fed these things. Look, if the first time your daughter or your son sees a penis is in a picture of the statue of David, there's nothing wrong with that. And let's be real. There's a lot worse ways your kid can see a penis for the first time than on a picture of a statue that is considered one of the greatest pieces of art in the world. But somebody gets a little outraged and a little upset, and the next thing you know, we've got pictures of David in drag on the internet as a mockery of what's going on in Florida. We keep getting fed these stories when what we really, I believe, ought to be looking at are these systemic, big picture things. Our country isn't going to run if it doesn't have a workforce to run it. Our country is not going to survive if our infrastructure doesn't allow for the movement of goods and resources. Our society is not going to survive if we continually bash and denigrate anybody and everybody that doesn't look, think, or speak like I do.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Well said. It has become a magician's playing field where, look at this hand, but don't pay any attention to what's going on this other hand. So we get all these stories, not that they shouldn't be talked about if they're are discussed or whatever, but the way they come out, very inflammatory, very derogatory, very insightful, so that you get so up in arms about the statute of David, where they're not passing bills to fix railroads, or they're making it easier for them to get more insurance and you get less, or whatever the case may be. We have to begin to pay attention. Awareness, right? And although they have made a mockery of the idea of being awake, I can't believe that the term woke is now a derogatory term. And we're fighting over this, right? As opposed to saying, I'm just going to pay attention to what's real, right? I don't care whether you call me woke or not, or if I think I'm woke, I'm very liberal. I mean, this is stupid stuff.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. We were snowflakes, now we're just woke. And again, I think so many people are trapped in their little bubbles that they get force fed the party line, if you will. Right? Let's be real, folks. Donald Trump got rich ripping off this country, or continued to increase his wealth. Let's say he got rich ripping off other people for a long time, and then he just moved his game up a notch and said, let's see if we can do this to a whole country, and he did. Yeah. And now he's going to pay the price for it, I believe. Yeah. But we're still left trying to clean up the mess, and the people of this country we're now at a point where we've got to step up and say, all right, give me a broom and give me a melting pot. Give me a broom to sweep up the crap and a melting pot to melt down the guns.
Yeah. And just for the record, I am glad I'm awake this morning, because I could not have awakened. And so it's a good thing to be woke.
Exactly. Our brother Wayne's with us today. Good morning, Wayne. And I like this comment. Let us be known by the melting of our walls. Yes, brother. Yeah. Right? That's not just a physical wall, although we can take that wall down on the southern border. It's that sense of division, that sense of separation, that sense that you and I are different. When what we know from experience is we're all the same.
Yeah. And we begin to see these kinds of strifes where we've separated people and ideologies and philosophies and ways of life, so that now everybody is against everybody, right? And so as our founder Ernest Holmes would say, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Right.
And we're headed down that track, but we know we can make a right turn or a left turn. Don't matter. you can make a turn and circle back around to a more advantageous point. We just gotta make up our minds to do so. We can resolve some of these issues. We can resolve a lot of these issues, but we have to work together. We have to take the profit out of this stuff where I start arguing for a point just because it's going to profit me. I'm going to get more airtime. I'm going to get more contracts. I'm going to get more money. And it seems like that's what the politicians, the big conglomerate businesses, some of these lobbyist groups, they are concerned about themselves and their small little group. Even idea is a divisive idea.
Oh yeah, and especially if it's a divisive idea, they double down when it call they get more money, right? The more outrageous you are, the more in your face you are, the more argumentative you are, it would appear from what I can see, the more money they give you. People, others, they step up. Yeah, you do that, man. You do that. And I want to see a country that cares more about its kids than its guns. I want to see a country where politics is not some elite faction of our society, but where everyone gets involved. As you've been sharing, an idea came to me that there are countries in this world that require you to do 2 or 3 years of military service in the younger part of your life, not as teenagers, not as children, but once you're an adult, you're required to do some amount of service to the country. What if America adopted an idea where that's true in politics? Now, all right, I'm not saying let's put 15-year-olds in the Senate, although, hey, it couldn't be much worse than what we got now. Some 15-year-olds are better adjusted than some senators at this point. But let's make political involvement compulsory, mandatory, whether that's on a state level or whether it's on a national level. And and right now, again, let's go back. This is National Day of Trans Visibility, global, let's say global trans visibility, and there are a huge number of anti-LGBTQ, anti-trans, incredibly discriminatory, hurtful, and potentially healthfully damaging bills, potential laws that are going through the state houses across this country. The states are trying to do what they believe the federal government never will, and that is outlaw people. They're trying to outlaw the people that don't believe the way they do. And these anti-trans, anti-LGBT laws that are being pushed through many states, and I'm sorry, I don't have that list in front of me. It's getting longer every day. There's like 19 different states right now with pending legislation that will criminalize giving someone health care when they don't know who they are. Now, we're a philosophy that loves to support people and figure it out who they are. So I think that's an absolute corollary of a place where folks in the New Thought movement can start getting involved. Call your state legislator. The heck with Congress. The heck with, not really, but start locally. Start locally having conversations, because one of those people might be somebody in your neighborhood that you could actually have a conversation with and say, hey, I have a trans teen. I got a trans kid. I don't know all the issues, but I'm starting to figure them out, and I'm willing to listen. What makes you so afraid of these folks? Mm-hmm. I'm more afraid of a good guy with a gun than I am of a drag queen reading a book. Plain and simple.
Yeah. And it has come down to, in my mind, we're trying to legislate behavior. We're trying to legislate morality. We're trying to legislate these things that are people's individual choices. And so when are we going to begin to create an environment that allows people to make choices, that is right for them, that as long as they're not uh, infringing on someone else's rights or whatever, live and let live. I mean, we've seen tons of wars that end up with only dead people. Nothing's resolved. I mean, look at the war in Ukraine and Russia. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have died and nothing is resolved. Infrastructures, whole cities are just bombed out and burned out. Those people got to go somewhere where they got to have food. All of that's been destroyed. What has Putin earned by doing that other than just, I don't even know. Nothing but a but murderer title for sure.
Yep, exactly. It doesn't seem to have done his people much good. Our friend Linda says the division of people in our country, rather than working towards consensus, is a key issue. Exactly. And Wayne says, do right by your friends. And I'm going to agree with that, but do right by your enemies as well. Because here's the truth, folks. Your enemies are not your enemies. Right? There's that old saying, the enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine. No. We don't want to look at anybody as our enemies. We've got to bring everybody into that friend zone. I know a lot of guys don't like being put in the friend zone. Sorry, but we've all got to be in the friend zone. We've all got to be in that place where I might not like everything you do. I might not want to hang out with you on Friday night, but you're a human being, and you deserve that I at least listen. That we have a conversation. I mean, nobody's ever changed anybody's mind based on shouting at each other on Facebook. And I'm guilty of it too. I like to do my shouting on Facebook, and I think that's a safe place. That's where we do it. It's the town square. You stand up on your pulpit and start screaming, but that's not where minds and hearts are changed. That happens in coffee shops and in restaurants. That happens at the library. That happens in the parks. That happens when we get into conversations where we don't know. And honestly, I think most people don't know what their neighbors believe, but we get into conversations and determine, hey, wow, that is a wild way of looking at the world. And how can we kind of talk this not out, but talk this through to a point where I can better understand your perspective and you can better understand mine. And we come together to chart a course forward, rather than continuing to try to beat each other up.
Wow, you mean you're going to ask people to wake up and get some more information and then discuss the information with somebody else who will maybe come up with an idea that's fresh because we got more information, we got better information. We can talk sensibly about it and see where the connections are and say, oh, that might be a better idea. I can't believe that. That's preposterous, isn't it? That happens.
That is crazy. You're nuts. That'll never work. No way. We can't do that. Critical thinking
it's
still works, right?
And when you look at the founding of this country, and pretty much I would say the founding of any country, it was that approach that made it so. People got together and had talked about ideas because everybody had different approaches and different experiences and different environments, and they were able to see the interconnectionality between it all, and they were able to bring up critical thinking, point counterpoint, and work through it and come up with a solution that was workable and alive, right? Because they knew it was going to grow. Imagine trying to make a city rule for people of 100, and now you have 100 million. Those rules need to change a little bit, and you have to create the flexibility for that to happen.
Yeah. Again, you just sparked something in me. The founding fathers did have these really tough conversations, and not everybody saw it the same way. Slavery was one of those big issues, but it was very, very rare that you ended up like Hamilton with pistols at dawn. It was very rare that there was a duel to decide it. They were gentlemen. They figured it out. They worked it out. They came to, at those time, compromises that they felt for the time would work. Today, hell, we don't even wait till dawn. People just pull out their guns and shoot you if they don't like what you're saying. They just take out their gun and start waving it in your face and tell you to shut up if they don't like what you're saying. So I'm never really I'm not often the one that says let's go back to the old days, but let's go back to the old days where we sit down and talk about our political differences rather than waving our guns and challenging everybody to a duel. Because shooting it out has never truly worked, and it's not going to work in the future either. Well, folks,
and they're shooting it out over in Russia and Ukraine, and we see what they're leaving.
Exactly. Yep. Folks, if you wonder what you stumbled into, this is Ministers Talking Shit. It happens on Friday mornings. My dear brother, Reverend LZ, and I get together here and talk about what's going on in the world. We don't pretend we're going to solve every issue. We don't pretend that we're even going to come close. But we know that through the discussion and through the conversation, we can take new ideas, and new ideas emerge. So if you have an idea you'd like to see us talking about, or if you're someone that would like to come on the program and join us on a Friday morning, please send us an email, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. That's ministertalk@ntmedia.org. That'll get directly to us. We'd love to hear your ideas. We'd love to hear who you would like to see us have on this program. We'd love to hear what you would like us to talk about and the conversations you'd like us to have here on this as well. So, and if you haven't noticed, folks, we've effectively stretched this program from 30 to 45 minutes. That's pretty much where we are at this point, maybe a few minutes less than that, because we do have a full day of programming coming up here on New Thought Media Network. Including our regular morning lineup. Practicing Infinite Possibilities with Lindsay Lineback is at 10 a.m. 1 o'clock is The Joy Show with Rev B. I come back at 5 with the good news. Reverend Michael's here with the Fireside Chat at 6. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. So you can learn more over on our website, ntmedia.org. All right, Z, before we take off for the day, what's up? What's the final thoughts?
I've been thinking about that, and I think that the best thing that we can do is go read a book. Get a good book on critical thinking, a good book on creating harmony, creating community, and go read. And then share that book, share those ideas with someone else.
I haven't started it yet, but I've heard this one's really good.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
That's sitting on top of my pile. That's next. So maybe
I'll have to get that one.
I'll have to give you guys a report by next week. I agree. It has always been through literature, through books, that new ideas can be presented. And I think in a very non-confrontational way. It's not like watching a video where there's somebody yelling at you or telling you what to think. It's not like a debate where there's all these people, or a good book is you and the idea, you and the premise. So search around, ask around. If you're interested, both Rev Z and I could make a lot of recommendations on some good books for you to dig into, that don't, again, not telling you what to think, but leading you along a path of how to think, and allowing you the glimpse, the insight into various perspectives on an issue, and trusting that you're an intelligent human being. You can figure out what's going on, but we gotta want it. We gotta want to really dig in and look at LGBTQ issues, look at trans issues, look at guns rights issues, look at the various things that we call a plague upon America right now. It is only through knowing the other side's perspective that I can truthfully argue mine.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm just spitting into your wind. And that does neither of us any good.
Yeah. Yeah. Be informed.
Be informed. Yes. All right, folks, we're going to get out of here for today. Thank you for being with us here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Rev Briz.
Rev Z.
And we love you. And we're going to be back again and again and again every Friday here on the New Thought Media Network. So please like, share, subscribe. Let your friends know what we're doing. Until next week, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
Have a great week.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.